any belongings. Please do not return to the building until given permission to do so by council staff. Please note that the meeting will be audio recorded. Please switch off mobile phones or turn them to silent. Toilets and hand washing facilities are available in the foyer area. Members of the public, whilst you are of course entitled to film or take photographs during the meeting, can I please emphasise that should you do this, it is done without disruption to the meeting and can only be done from a designated area in the public seating. Can I please therefore ask you to raise your hand clearly in the air if you wish to take photographs or film this evening? Members, there is a need to use microphones during the meeting. When I invite you to speak, please wait until there is a microphone in front of you before speaking, as microphones are needed for the hearing loop and for the audio recording. These are all switched on and ready for you to speak and will be unmuted by officers, so you do not need to adjust them. Please make sure that the microphone is close to your mouth before speaking and please speak clearly. So the meeting proper. Agenda item number 1, apologies for absence. So we have apologies from Councillor June Lumley and Councillor Mike Wilkinson. Are there any other apologies, please, members? No one's indicating. Agenda item number 2, substitute members. Mr. Constable, sorry, for Councillor June Lumley. Agenda item 3, non-members attending. There are none. Agenda item 4, minutes of the meeting held on the 28th of June 2022. Members, are the minutes agreed? Thank you. Agenda item 5, to receive declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest, members? No one's indicating. Councillor Mr. Stanley.
Just to say that my membership to the Raleigh Town Council.
Thank you. Agenda item 6, local investigation determinations, April 2022 to March 2023. Members, Andrew Hunking, Interim Director of People and Governance, will introduce the report.
Thank you, Chairman. You have before you the report setting out the code of conduct complaints that I've received. Well, I say I received, obviously I've been in post since December, but the monitoring officer before me also received some. And that's for 2022-23. Just in summary, there are 13 complaints shown there. I can now say that I've actually received 14, having received one on the 16th of March. Of those, 5 are complete. 1 wasn't a code of conduct complaint, as it was dealing with the clerk of a parish council. 3 of them concern one parish council, which we're looking to investigate further, and I'm very grateful to the independent person, Stan Shabbat, who's been working with me on that as well. That therefore means that there's 5 remaining, including the one I received a couple of days ago. 2 are now being concluded and will be concluded by the end of this week, and 3 are currently under investigation still. They are quite small matters to be dealing with. There's nothing untoward about them, so again, I'm comfortable that they will be finished as well by the end of this municipal year.
Thank you. Members, can I just remind you, and this may be of benefit to our visitors, the information that we are given is redacted. So we do not know personal individuals that are involved in these cases or who they are against. Our questions will be around the processes and that alone, if that makes sense. Councillor FD, you've got a question.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. The complaint on just a process question. So page 6.6, 2nd of the 10th, 22, right, the outcome, where it says completed complaint was not considered sufficiently serious to warrant investigation. and merit no further action. I know this is before your time, Andrew, because this was last year, but who makes that decision? Is it the monitoring officer or one of the independent people who look at the complaint?
It will depend. Very often, if it's something which is very, very straightforward, then the monitoring officer will deal with it on their own. Generally, I would look to get the independent person involved, because I think it's right that you get that independent view on it, somebody who will see things from a different light. But if it is really straightforward, then I'll look at it, and I'll talk to the parties involved and say, I can't see anything here, and they'll say, yeah, it was a storm in a teacup or whatever. But if it's anything else, then I would get the independent person involved, and they would work with me on that and give me the advice. But at the end of the case, the decision is for the monitoring officer.
Okay, thank you. And just one other question. A lot of committees we have set times where things are supposed to be completed by. Do the complaints have a set time?
Not statutorily, but we obviously have our guidance in the Constitution, and I try and endeavour to keep to those. I think the important thing is that, first of all, it's acknowledged within 5 working days, and that's always done. Then you will start to carry out your investigation, and if you know that it's going to take longer, or you just haven't been able to deal with it, then you'd keep that person informed. But obviously, we look to get them done as soon as practically possible.
And just one more, last one as you're speaking. When the complaint is completed, even if there's no action to be taken, or as it says in this one, didn't want investigation, people are still written to and told that?
Yes, they are. So each one is concluded. We have a system, which actually shows all the dates, shows when they've been acknowledged, shows the investigations that have been carried out, and also the conclusion, and also when we've informed people of a decision.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Stanley.
Thank you, Chairman. There's on 6.5, number 4 and number 5. I do understand that we are obliged to keep our code of conduct and the Constitution. Do we stipulate that other bodies, other councils, parish councils or whatever, should also keep to that code of conduct, and are they reminded of that? And where we've got number 5 as a district councillor, when we say completed, no breach of code, do we chat one-to-one with that councillor or whatever the complaint was, and so that he understands where or what his action should be? Thank you.
So this council adopted the model code of conduct, which was set up by the LGA back in June last year, I think, and then it came into place in August. Each parish council has its own code of conduct, or should do. What we do say is that we would like you to use the model code of conduct if at all possible, because obviously that gives consistency across the piece and also has all the best practice in it. If you remember your deliberations last June, the code of conduct included things such as bullying and harassment, put more emphasis on that, and obviously we'd be looking for the parish councils to endeavour to do the same. But it is their decision to actually do that. When it comes to talking to people, even when no breach has been found, generally, most of my investigations of that sort start off with an informal conversation. I will just say that I've got 2 informal conversations at the other place tomorrow. So I like to start off with that so that they understand what the process is, how it's the steps that are going to go through, the support that's available to them, both from me and also from the independent person as well. And then it depends on then what the outcome is. If it's very, very straightforward and there absolutely is no breach, then I would just formally write to them. If it was something that I wanted to discuss, and it may be, I have found that there's no breach, or I have found that there is, but it's borderline, so let's consider what we need to be doing next. Then I would like to do it again by a phone call or a face-to-face meeting.
Want to come back?
Thank you. The in certain circumstances, there are parishes that have adopted our constitution, as you very well know, and we need to express to them what our constitution is if they haven't got one themselves. And can we do that at any time? Thank you.
So it's the code of conduct, not the constitution, because obviously the constitution is completely different. Like I said, we would be looking for them, we would be encouraging them to actually take up the code of conduct. I would also say that we've also got the Essex Association of Local Councils, who would also be working with the parish councils and saying to them again, it is best practice to adopt this, so we would be encouraging you to do so.
Yeah, unfortunately, the local council the Association of Local Councils isn't interested in parishes that belong to the association, unfortunately, and I've had dealings with those people, and they've turned around and said, well, there's nothing we can do, nothing we want to do. So what I'm saying to you is the council, RDC, going to enforce those code of conducts to them on the basis that the EALC is not interested? Thank you.
So we can't enforce it, and neither can the EALC. It is for the parish councils to adopt a code of conduct. They should do so. I would expect somebody like the auditor to pick it up if it's not. But I'd also expect, and I hear what you're saying, but I would expect the Association of Local Councils to actually be doing that. That is what they are there for.
Thank you. Councillor Miss Marriott.
I was going to ask a couple of questions, but I'd like to start with saying that I'm meeting with the ELAC later this month, so I will take up Councillor Stanley's points.
Thank you.
With that. There also, for parishes, is a civility and respect pledge that we can all sign up to, and I know that there's been some of the parishes in the district have done so. My questions is I believe that district councillors are compelled to take the Code of Conduct training. Could you just confirm that? And also, what is being done to encourage parish councils to also make sure that, from my end, as chairman of Rochford 100, I can encourage the parishes that attend our meetings to take up this training, because although when I messaged you about this, I was quite surprised about the amount of complaints, although some of them may be not very serious at all. It's still quite a lot of complaints, isn't it? 13 or 14. Thank you.
It is. Andrew, thank you.
So I just want to start with the fact that you talked about code of conduct and whether or not it's mandatory training. It isn't, but we would always be encouraging members to take it up. So after these elections that are coming up now, we will have a training and development program in place. And for things such as code of conduct training, we would be encouraging members to take it up to the point where we would follow up where they hadn't, because we believe it is so important that they do take it up. But it isn't like planning training where you can't actually sit on the planning committee unless you have taken up that training. So we'll be looking to encourage. With regards to the parish councils, I haven't yet, but it is something I could do, is to encourage them to take up that code of conduct and also to carry out the training. Again, it's something I want to have a conversation with the Association of Local Councils on, to understand what their role would be in that and what my role would be as well. Because it is something that I want to see. If a parish council has a code of conduct and have had the training in it, you're quite right. What it means is that, in theory, I should get fewer complaints. And obviously, I really wish to encourage that.
Okay, could we have a conversation after the meeting about a conversation with the Essex Association of Local Councils, because I am meeting with them on the 23rd.
Thank you. Just to make it quite clear, there are places available for parishes to attend that training. That is promoted to all parishes. What I do have to make clear is that we cannot make them attend them. Right, yeah. And just to add, they can only attend once they've adopted the model code. Councillor Mr Stanley, just to remind you, we're keeping to the processes relating to the document. Thank you.
One thing that does occur to me that we do have mandatory training, and although this is not mandatory to the parishes, is that something you may consider later? Thank you.
No. Excuse me, just one thing there, Councillor Stanley. Our training is not mandatory. Yeah. Thank you.
Again, we have no authority to do that. Each parish council is a separate entity, guided by its constitution, guided by its code of conduct, guided by its standing orders. We can encourage, but obviously we can't enforce that.
Councillor Mrs Squires-Coleman.
Thank you. Further to the question that was asked earlier, so many of these complaints are regarding the section on respect, and I don't know if that includes bullying and maybe intimidation because the detail is not there, but is there a case for having specific training on those areas for councillors inviting parish members?
I'll just come back just on that one. Some of the old longer term members will remember that last year I tried to bring in a civility and politics pledge. Unfortunately, it didn't take a lot of support from my fellow members. Andrew, if you want to follow up on that.
Well, I think there's a lot of merit in that. You know, if you are seeing that there are particular issues which are coming up every time within a complaint, then it would make sense, if you could, to have a focus on that particular area. So yes.
And perhaps if I raise it again next year at a full council, perhaps I might get some more support for taking that forward.
Would that be raised including the training though?
Yes, we can raise both. Yeah. Mr Shapbolt.
Having heard this all, having heard all this before for about 20 years, it hasn't really improved. The biggest problem that you all have to take on board is that the people on the parish know what they're doing.
Mr Shapbolt, just hold it a bit closer. I know it
Right.
sounds, yeah.
The people on the parish know what they're doing, and they don't need to be told by anybody else how to do it. So that's the first hurdle. The second one is, when they complain about the code of conduct, it's a gamble which code of conduct they're complaining about. Is it their one, their personal one they've found in a book, one that's been on the telly? So before we get to the complaints, we have to work out what they're complaining about. Now, it isn't always about respect. It's individuals. Vicar of Dibley comes to mind quite often when I'm reading these reports. And you think, oh, they can't really be saying that. But the truth is, they do. And so when you meet them and say, well, why did you say that? I don't remember saying that. And so you go back to square one. But we need an overall code of conduct that applies or should apply to all committees. We also need, all chairmen should be trained to chair a meeting. Some of them don't need it. They've done it all their lives. And until we get that in place, it will carry on indefinitely. They copy other people on the telly, who's ever in charge of the country, no matter what party. They feel they own the parish and someone is stepping on their toes. And as for due process, I don't think they even know what it's about until it goes wrong. So as a group of people, you need to put it to all your parties. Let's try and get one code of conduct and sell it to all of these parishes. The other group of people who's supposed to take an interest, they never have in 20 odd years, and I can't see them doing it now because they got the same problem. How can they breach a code when it's not our code, or it might not be their code? Because all of them have got different codes. And until we can get one code that applies right across this district, so we all know where we stand and they all know where they stand, and they actually publish it to their people in the village or the parish. That hasn't been done, I think, by any of the parish councils. Because if you ask, can we see your code? It's here somewhere. And that's where we start from. So when you're reading these complaints, it's a minefield. And, you know, shall we say, the officials have a slight different view that I might have. But when they start, shall we say, telling people to leave the room, not politely, and you say, why did you say that? I don't remember saying that. And if they'd done it in the pub, the person would have got up and hit them over the head with a bottle. It's that abrupt. And so, you know, I understand what you're saying, but you need one code of conduct across the board for the Rochford district area. And then we know what they're complaining about, and maybe they'll know what they're complaining about, which would be a big help. Okay?
Thank you. I would say the actual code of conduct does not differ that much. It is still framed around the 7 Nolan principles. The changes that came in last year, unless Mr Hunkin wants to advise me differently, was more around making it quite clear around the definition of bullying. However, some of the issues may not even be related so much to the code of conduct, but perhaps their processes. As you say, chairmanship training is not mandatory. We can't make it mandatory. We can only encourage all members to take up such training. Did you want to come back on anything there?
Not to come back, but to reiterate exactly what you're saying there, you know, is that we are looking to promote good governance with all the parish councils, and will advise if they wish us to, bearing in mind that we haven't got a statutory responsibility for that. It is fair to say that in the 4 months or 5 months, 4 months that I've been here, I haven't had to advise anybody, but at other authorities, perhaps where I'm better known, I've been there longer, then I would get a phone call from the parish clerk who would say, I've got this particular issue, what advice, it's nothing to do with the code of conduct, but what advice can you give me? And that gives you the opportunity to have those conversations and see what you can do to make sure that they have the right standing orders in place, that they do understand their application. And you're right, if you get the basics like that right, which are done through making sure that you've got the right standing orders, that people understand them, have the right training and development, it doesn't then escalate into something which leads to a code of conduct complaint.
And just to remind all members and for people listening to the recording from parishes, our training programme goes out to them. They're invited to attend. So that is all we can do, I'm afraid. I've got a question, please, Mr Hunkin, on page 6.7, number 8. When you say, obviously in our constitution, that it should be replied to within 5 working days. This one was the 24th of November 22, but not acknowledged until 25th of January 23. I wonder if you could give us some insight into why.
Yes, it is simply the fact that this fell between the gap of me taking over from the other monitoring officer and not being aware of it until that date there in January, when I was informed that there was a complaint, and after doing some considerable digging was able to find it and to resurrect it. So it was during the process of handover that that one got mislaid.
So in hindsight, Mr Hunkin, what are the measures now in place should you be absent or there be another period where we haven't got a monitoring officer to ensure that these are responded to within 5 working days?
The code of conduct complaints are now filed and better than what they were in the past. So it shouldn't happen again. You know, it shouldn't be lying around in emails. It should be on a proper system with a right bring forwards in it. Corporate services at Rochford are brilliant in maintaining things like that and giving you the nudge when something's coming up. Obviously, they can't give you the nudge if they don't know themselves as well. So we have improved with regards to that, and we're looking to improve further.
So there is definitely a process in place now that these would be dealt with in your absence or anybody else's absent as a monitoring officer.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Stanley, you wanted to ask a question?
Yes, please. Thank you. I've got to say thank you to Mr. Stanbolt, for bringing this up. He's brought it up so many times in the past, year in, year out, and yet nothing's done. And this is the reason why I'm saying...
Sorry, Councillor Stanley, what are you referring to that's nothing's done?
The Code of Conduct.
What do you mean nothing is done?
Well, in respect of not making it mandatory for parishes to get the Code of Conduct in themselves and understanding what that is, including chairmanship as well. And it's so many times...
Councillor Mr Stanley, sorry, I think Mr Hunkins already explained that that is not our role as a council. That is the Essex Local Government Association's role.
Well, perhaps Mr Andrew Hunkin can have a word with the council and see what improvements can be made.
I think there's already an arrangement. Mr Hunkin's going to speak to Councillor Miss Marriott, who I believe is still the chair of Rochford 100 Parish. So that is being taken forward. Is that okay? Wonderful. Councillor Constable.
Yes, can I ask whether the training is free for the parishes, code of conduct training and other training that relates to conduct? Is that free for the parishes or do you charge for it?
Parishes, parish councillors can attend it, as mentioned before, as long as they've signed up to the model code. Otherwise, it would be pointless them attending the training.
So I think that's something that should be sent out to maybe the parish councillors, that if they sign up to that, then that training can be made available to them free of charge, and maybe that's something that can be sent out again.
Yeah, it is, and it will be sent out the new municipal year again with the training. Has anybody any other questions? Thank you. Then members, there is one recommendation set out at paragraph 4.1, and it says that the summary of complaints and determinations for the period of April 2022 to March 2023 be received. Is that noted, members? Thank you. That, members, concludes the business for this evening. Thank you very much for coming along to the meeting. Thank you. And it is 7:55.